Hi guys, and welcome to John and Leon's Elvis reviews. You might have noticed you can actually see us on this video. We're going to try this new format and see how it goes down. So apologies if we're not 100% with this one. As I say, it's our first time doing this, and we're going to kick this one off with Elvis's "Live a Little, Love a Little" from 1968. We're going to talk about the movie and then the four songs from it. And as always, Leon Smith is with me on this one. How you doing this
Hey, John.
afternoon, Leon?
Oh, fantastic, John. Fantastic.
Glad to hear it.
Nice. We can talk about one of the more obscure movies rather than something that's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because it's amazing the amount of people that have never seen it
No.
and dismiss it simply because of when it was made.
That's the thing, and it's a change in direction as well. I think the reason why people don't know it is because it's not one of those formulatic movies that Elvis was stuck in for a good 6 years. So, but I know that you like the last movies as well as I do, actually, because it's a shame because it was a change in direction, but it was short lived.
Yeah,
So,
I think there's some gems in
yeah,
amongst that, and as you kind of alluded to there, John, I think that they're overshadowed by
yeah,
what had come before, maybe double troubles, Paradise Hawaiian style, where it really hadn't got particularly good. And then these films, I mean, at least if nothing else, they show a change of direction, and they're trying to do something different with it. And I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I think the problem is that the final four films could have been so much better with better directors. I think that's really the problem. I don't think.
Well, you had Norman Turog, which was his last direction for Elvis, because obviously
Yeah,
he did quite a lot of movies with Elvis, and I think both those guys working together was a comfort zone
yeah, I think
with
that's because
director and actor. So,
yeah,
and I don't know, Elvis's performance in this movie is pretty good. It's got a maturer kind of content. His comedy delivery is quite good,
yeah, there's
and
some really good comedic moments in it.
yeah, definitely. And then you've got the actual soundtrack or the four songs from the movie, which were pretty good actually. And that's also Leon a different in direction because it's got the big band sound, it's got the string section, it's got the orchestra. But we'll talk about that a bit more about that when we go into the songs. But
Yeah, yeah,
the movie itself, it's very 60s as of
yeah.
where well, from 1968, and I think it was current. It was current.
Well, what's different about it, the way I see it, is that Colonel Parker and Hollywood had kind of got this clean cut image for Elvis as far as Hollywood's concerned.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But Live a Little, Love a Little kind of changes. There's some change in approach to that. It's quite risque in places. The script goes places that previously would never have been dreamt of. For
No.
example, you've got Elvis in a shower scene.
True. Yep. Yep.
You've got swearing. Okay, it's mild swearing, but it's still there. There's definite hints at promiscuity. Um,
Oh yeah.
you know that sharing a bed with a woman at a wedlock. Now, I mean, most people these days are going to laugh and say, "Wait a minute, what?" I mean, you'd see that in a normal ordinary soap opera.
Yeah,
An ordinary
but this
soap
is
opera.
1968, so it's a long, long time ago. It's 51 years ago.
Well, that's also true, but it's also the fact that it's, as I said 2 seconds ago, it's also completely against the grain of the image, that clean cut image that Parker and Hollywood had tried to mold Elvis into.
Yeah.
So I think that, if nothing else, it was the start of the change of direction.
Yeah.
And I think that it's also, and I think the film should be better known than it is as well, because let's not forget that a lot less conversation came from this movie.
Yeah. Which everyone will know now.
Was his biggest posthumous worldwide hit. So people don't realise that that's where the song originated.
Yep.
But
Exactly. And
and I don't know why MGM didn't somehow. There must have been a way that they could have it captured the attention that the song was getting. In 2002, I know we're talking about the song a bit later, but as far as MGM are concerned, I don't know why they couldn't have ridden the crest of that wave somehow. I mean, they were quick enough to release That's the Way It Is back into the cinema, so they could have released it even on a limited basis back into theatres or cinemas.
They could have jumped on that bandwagon, Leon, definitely.
Yeah, they definitely could have, but hey ho. A lot of people have a downer on the film, but I think a lot of the critical reviews that I've read of the film as well tend to be people. I think a lot of critics around that time, they had them pre-written. I don't think they even watched the films, to be honest. I think,
and the plot itself, it's a bit all over the place.
It is, but I also think Michelle Carey being cast as the leading lady, I don't think she was experienced enough to. I think she probably has, you could call it a sort of schizophrenic personality, if that makes sense. Where she has that.
It's a little bit of immaturity there, and but she's also vulnerable as well in the movie. So it's yeah. I
think an experienced actress could have pulled that and could have found something in that role.
Yeah, see, if that film was made in a modern day time, it would. It's not a bad script and it's not a bad movie, but it's just another throwaway Elvis movie, unfortunately.
Well, you're right, John. Yeah, you're right, because I see it that the eccentricities of Alice, Bernice, whatever you want to call it, because you get through a few different names in the film. I think the way that Michelle Carey plays it looks a bit over implausible and over ridiculous. But I think it was a catch-22 situation, though, because I think, as you said, that by this stage, I don't think any real credible artist or actress would have touched that role with a barge pole, simply because it was an Elvis movie.
Yeah, because Elvis movies are always the movies to get into the industry, then do stuff after an Elvis movie.
Yeah, so I think at this film being maybe 62, 63, even maybe 64, I think that, in fact, I'll tell you what, I think, and I hate to go down this road, but I think that part, had it been around about 64, I think Anne-Margaret would have been perfect for that role, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a good point you've made there, Leon, actually. But see, by 1968, I think Elvis was a joke as an actor, and these movies were a joke. And it's a shame because he had so much more to give as an actor. But by that time, I think the movies had came to an end, which is why it came to an end in 69, which wasn't long after this. So, but, you know, Elvis is looking really good in the movie. He's looking really healthy. He's looking sharp. And I think that's probably because it's a lead up to the comeback special. And but I think Elvis had looked good from, say, the summer of 67. He's lost the weight prior to doing Clam Bake, etc. And he's kept the weight down for that whole year because, let's face it, it's funny in Elvis's movies, you would have one movie where he's slightly overweight, then he'd be trimmed down, then he'd be overweight. It was always an up and down kind of thing throughout the 60s.
But I think also what backs up what you're saying, John, is the fact that you can see from that opening sequence where he's driving that beach buggy, you can see in his face there's no boredom. He's actually really enjoying that whole scene.
Yeah. When he's driving on the beach and and it's like he's not even in character. It's like it's just Elvis going about in a buggy.
Yeah, and it's great. And I think the film has there's some really comedy dialogue in the film. And it's that's one of the things it suffers from. But what I will say is, I think there's some really funny bits in the film.
I like it when he's trying to keep the two jobs at once, and he's
up and down those stairs.
Up and down those stairs, and he's trying to like not
the ties off, and the ties on.
Because one boss likes some casual,
Rudy Valley's character,
and then one boss likes him to be sharp and presentable, and obviously they're in the same building. and he has to like swap and change between two roles, and I'm like,
I think that's quite
brilliant.
clever.
That's good,
Yeah.
really, really good.
I like the scene where the groceries are getting delivered. I think that.
Yeah, the kid, yeah, he's like,
yeah,
and he knocks him over when he comes in, and then you've got the milkman,
yeah,
with his French toast.
French toast, and that's where you get the Alice.
Yeah, because each person that visits her house knows a different person.
Exactly.
Well, with personality.
And then you've got the Dick Sargent character as well in that.
Do you know what? He had a really good part in that, and it was quirky.
It was, yeah, it was. It's quite good the way it worked, the way it all works in there. That she's got all these men, and they can't seem to pull themselves away from her.
And Elvis has got a little bit of savvy to go. Well, Elvis's character, I mean, Greg Nolan knows. I know there's something not right about you.
Yeah, but I think
he knows there's something there as well that he could fix.
Yeah, but I think when I say corny dialogue, see, I think one of the things that lets the film down is as well when you've got what I describe as the psychedelic dream sequence.
Yeah,
when he does Edge of Reality. And I think the fact that they use what's essentially a man in a Scooby-Doo costume, I think that, yeah.
That's cringy.
Yeah. I don't know how that would have looked in 68.
I think the song Edge of Reality suits what's happening to him.
Yes, it does.
But, the choreographed sequence is bad.
Yeah.
Elvis's dance moves are terrible. He doesn't know where he is. And the editing's really bad, where it goes from one woman to another. It's supposed to be the same woman, but you can tell it's just been, cut and pasted. But it's the late 60s. It's not going to be the greatest special effects in the world, but and it's an Elvis movie on top of that. But I like the bit where he's swirling around, and I thought that's really good. And I just wish that. I think if they just did that, and I'm singing over that, would have worked.
If you had, you see Bernice give him the pills now.
Yeah.
Now, what we have to now is use your own judgment as to whether you think that they are sleeping tablets, paracetamol. Or as we had a conversation yesterday, John, we were talking about this when we were doing our prep for this. It's quite possibly some sort of LSD or something like that she's given him, because the fact that would lead perfectly onto the reason he's having that psychedelic dream sequence. Now, if you could see him just toss and turn, and then he feels as if he's falling without having Albert involved, the dog involved.
Yeah.
And he suddenly lands in this. Essentially, this area where the song takes place, then I think it would have fitted a lot better, and it would. Yeah. I think it would have been a standout part of Elvis's whole 60s, some mid to late 60s movies. I think that would have been a standout part had it been done like that.
Yeah, of course. But then, I mean, it's like they're throwing a little bit of a tribute or a bit of respect to the movies before, like the pool party, and there's little bits of like where he can still do it. He can still bring the chicks into the party. Well, he's not really hosting the party, but he can still, get the girl and and get any girl he wants, because he basically does that. He eyes a girl up, he picks her, he's like, I want to have her. And then that's when he sings Little Less Conversation.
Well, I have to say as well, I think that...
And he talks utter crap to get her, because that's what she's into. She's into astrology. So he just pretends he likes it to get her out of the party.
Yeah.
And and that's another thing you never really seen in an Elvis movie, as to where he's sort of like taking advantage as it were.
Yeah, but that's
he was usually a gentleman in these movies. It was always mild.
Yes, and that's that change of direction that we're talking about.
Yeah, well, he's 33 now by this
too
time.
little, too late though.
Yeah, because let's face it. I mean, the soundtracks weren't doing very well. Speedway, for instance, was terrible. I'm not saying the songs were not too bad. I'm just saying the sales wise, the soundtrack era was gone.
Yeah.
And but I really like the soundtrack to this movie. Like I say,
what's great. Billy Strange involved in it. I think that helps a lot as well. I think
great
that helps
songs, mature songs.
Yeah. And by the way, while we mentioned that, I want to mention that there's links in the description below to all the songs, so you can look at that. What we're talking about Edge of Reality. Just click on the song and just watch it, and then come back to it. Come back to us where you've left us. So I totally agree with that. But I also think, as far as one of the more mature themes is concerned, I think we mentioned that I think that Elvis has been, Greg Nolan's been drugged, but there's also kidnapping involved here as well, remember? Because he's been held there essentially against his will because of the fact that he's been drugged and kidnapped. And you see the clock go round. So how many days is he there for? It gets to the point he's been there for so long, he goes back to work and gets fired.
Then when he goes to his apartment, he doesn't live there anymore.
That scene's funny as well. That scene's very funny. I think that scene's really good. Where she mistakes him for the ironing board repairman.
Yeah, the creepy one as well.
Yeah, then she accuses him of being a pervert.
And then when he goes to work, then he's confronted by the boss's henchman, really.
Yeah.
And it's Sonny and Red as per usual.
It's actually pretty good. It's actually a well choreographed fight scene now, actually.
Do you know what though, Leon? Elvis's fight scenes in every single Elvis movie were very believable.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say so. I mean, and I think that's because of the fact that he used his friends and his entourage, and they were strong men anyway. And they did. See, Red West was a fight scene choreographer anyway. He did that type of thing. So I think it was a bit more believable.
So what about the opening song?
The opening song, "Wonderful World."
Mm-hmm.
Really good song, and that song was released on the Elvis Sings "Flaming Star." It was released on here. The only song, the Camden one, and that was the only song from the movie. It's on this one, but I'll explain later in the later songs what they were released on. But yeah, that was released on Elvis Sings "Flaming Star." A little bit of trivia about that song. Cliff Richard recorded it in the same year, and it was Cliff Richard's song to get into the Eurovision, which Cliff ended up doing Congratulations. They picked Congratulations over Wonderful World. And then the song went to Elvis, and then it was released in the movie. It used to be a really, really big favorite of mine when I was younger. It's just a different type of song for Elvis, you know?
Do you know he worked through 17 takes of that?
Yes, he did. And I listened to the Follow That Dream sessions of it the other day, and that's quite a lot of run throughs for a song, especially Elvis's.
What intrigues me about that, and this is something that really, in a lot of ways, annoys me in a lot of things about that. There's so many of these takes are missing. When Follow That Dream released this album that you can see up on the screen now, that's essentially them telling us that this is all they have. This is all they have.
Yeah.
All they have, because when Follow That Dream released something, they sometimes leave the odd take out, but you'll see this. There's very little, and if you can search all over the internet and you can find there's not an awful lot of places where a lot of takes are listed. But what intrigues me about this is the fact that he did 17 takes, and it was take 7 that was chosen. So that makes me think, considering the way that a lot of these movies, especially around this time, a lot of these movie songs were done, I think there might be a quite considerable difference between what the take that they chose as the master and the movie version and how it finished, because I can't see there being, unless there was an awful lot of false starts, I can't see the song being the same all the way through. There must, I know we're guessing, but I really think that there must have been quite a difference between them.
Well, yeah, say you've got maybe 7 to 10 takes, but when you've got like 17, there must be a difference in the song somehow, maybe they've changed the arrangements and they've maybe settled for
the tempo.
Yeah, it could be a number of things. It could be a factor of things that's.
But see, 17 takes in a normal Elvis recording session sometimes especially in the 70s in a lot of places. Like look at Fools Rush In, for example, with those 24, 28 takes.
Yeah.
But what's strange about this, when there's so many takes, is that this recording session was did in the presence of an entire orchestra being there. Now, normally, orchestral backing would be added in post-production.
But this is all live.
And another piece of trivia about this one as well, this is the very, very first recording session that Elvis did where none of his own regular session musicians were in attendance. So there's no Scotty Moore, there's no DJ Fontana. So it was in Billy Strange himself was there. He arranged all the songs.
Let's face it, Leon, it's a year of change for Elvis 68. It's going to be a massive change for him.
Oh, absolutely. But I just think that, as I say, that amount of takes, and this is the problem where we have to guess, of course.
Well, that's the only thing about these reviews. Sometimes it is a lot of guesswork, folks, and and we don't know everything. So we're just sort of giving our own opinion on stuff, and it might not be the right opinion, but it's a lot of guesswork because we're only listening to it and assuming that's what's happened and whatever. But it goes well with the opening sequence. It's quite a nice song, quite inviting, and it's
very upbeat, and it's like What a Wonderful Life from Follow That Dream. It gets you, it pulls you in. It gives you a sense of optimism as you're coming into the film.
Do you ever find though, with some Elvis movies at the start, it was like a false sense of security, then it ends up being really turd. But it's just, but no, as a whole, right? Live a little is okay. It's not great, but it's not purest Elvis movie either. It's bang in the middle. You know what I mean? It needs.
I think you can quite happily watch it and not be bored by it
because it's different.
Yeah, I grew up in my teenage years were in the 90s. So probably the time where late 80s, early 90s is probably not the best time to be an Elvis fan because as far as street cred's concerned. So I kept having my circle of friends. We'd be in the room and I'd fling on something Elvisy. And I'm trying to be very selective about what I put on because
that's what I used to be like as well.
Yeah, because you don't want to
be embarrassed.
Nowadays you can people see Elvis as for the vocalist that he is now. So you can throw on anything, people will appreciate the vocals. So it's the same when it came to the movies. You had to be very careful with what you put on. But I could quite comfortably put this on in my circle of friends and they would quite happily watch it.
But that's why like my best friend Kelly, because she's never seen an Elvis movie ever, right? Mm-hmm. And I says, watch King Creole because I wouldn't want to send her a poor movie because that's just not fair. And it's not fair on Elvis either. So I suggested for her to watch King Creole and she thoroughly enjoyed it. So,
but conversely, that could be, is this the best he can do?
Then yeah, I could go either bloody way.
Yeah, which is why I always tried to start somewhere in the middle. So this was quite good because there's only the 4 songs in it. Yeah. So you don't have that musical vibe that you get from
and the music's not overriding the plot either because there's only 4 songs. So
exactly. And see when I'm listening to the soundtrack, John, I find it very difficult to listen and not think about the fact that the next time Elvis would enter a recording studio would be to tape for the 68 special.
Well, there you go. Well, it was March, so March,
And
April, May, June. It's only a couple of months away.
in the same studio as well, Western Recorders.
Because you know what? It's almost the same sound. Well, it has the same sound, same bloody studio,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
most of the same musicians as well.
yeah. But you know, I think the good thing as well that all 4 songs, you can listen to them as standalone songs. They don't have to be heard in the context of the movie.
No, that's what I'm saying. That they're not I wouldn't say they're situation songs in the slightest.
No, absolutely,
In fact,
absolutely.
it's almost on par with "Tickle Me" because they weren't really situation songs. They could have easily been. Well, they were singles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Well, most of them, because we lead on to the second track in the movie, which is Edge of Reality, and that was
yeah.
released on. Well, I'm going to say the rest of the songs are actually you can find it if you want them on vinyl, folks. You can find them on here.
John's the vinyl man. John's the vinyl man.
And you know what? What a great pose that is, folks. Isn't it
Yeah.
great? From Almost in Love, released in 1970. So that was the first time that they were released as on an album anyway.
Yeah.
Edge of Reality, one of my favourite songs. Number 1 in Australia. Do you know that?
Yeah, do you know, the reason I know that is simply because I've got a few contacts, Elvis fans, who live down under, and they've take great pride in telling me that. It's very strange that it didn't do as well in many other places, because I think it's a very, very good song, and I really do think it definitely works. It's probably, along with a lot of this conversation, I think those are the 2 songs that are most contemporary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think the more contemporary. But I think to release as a single at the time, I think Edge of Reality would probably have been the best of the 4.
Me too.
Although I have had a conversation or 2 on Facebook where people just think Edge of Reality should be binned with a lot of the other movie songs, which is fine. I mean, if that's what an individual, if that's their own point of view, then in their own opinion, then fine. I mean, who are we to diss anybody else's opinion? My own personal opinion, I think it's a very, very good song.
I love it. I've always liked it.
There's also, if you notice, the intro is it's very like the intro to Charo as well. Just the way it starts.
They could go hand in hand together, can't they?
Yeah, they could. Mm. Yeah, they definitely.
They could actually just go back to back, and it's got that sort of dark kind of vibe going on.
You like the alternate takes, don't you?
Oh, take 3 of that song. Holy moly! The piano works a lot different. I think they're just trying to sort of organize the song and get it right. But I just love the sound and. But as you said yesterday, Leon, you thought Elvis sounded a little bit bored on the outtakes of that one.
I did. I was listening. I just don't think the enthusiasm seemed to be there, because, no. As I say, this gives you an insight of what we do before we do this. Sometimes we have a wee conversation beforehand about what we're going to talk about. Sometimes we do it before we start recording. Sometimes we do it the day before. And yesterday that was the case. And we ran through the songs together. We listened to a couple of the songs, and that's when I noticed it. And I think the problem is that when I listen to it on my own, it's kind of playing, and because I know the song, I'm not giving it that in-depth analysis. But because we're doing this as prep, and you're saying listen to this, and I'm listening to it, and I'm going, that it doesn't sound as enthused, and yet you get the master take where it seems to take off quite well. The
difference between the one I've just showed the viewers on this one with the Almost in Love version, it's shorter than the one it's on Elvis Golden Records Volume 5. Because it lasts a bit longer, and you hear Elvis going "ha" at the end, and the drums are so prominent, and you don't hear it on here, unfortunately.
You also know there's a subtle difference between the master and the movie version itself. There's a slight edit between the first chorus and the second verse.
It's to work within the scene.
Yeah, oh, exactly. Plus the final line's repeated 4 times, and then you get that sudden stop. But the sudden stop's the waking up from the dream.
That's it. Yeah.
Whereas in the master itself, it just fades.
Yeah.
So so I think so. It's you can see why it's been done.
Yeah, of course. Because at the end of the day, it's from a movie. It has to fit within that scene. Although,
of course, it does.
Although I just said a couple of minutes ago that it's not a situation song, but it has to fit within the movie somehow.
Well, of course it does. Of course it does. I think if you click on the link below, what you'll get is you'll get the movie version, but you'll get it with the audio from the master, because I've re-edited it like that. And what you'll also get, and I think I might have left it in, is where you see where the girls change and you get that sort of sound effect. I think I've left that in, and that dates it. I think that dates it a little bit.
Yeah, I know exactly what bit you're on about.
Yeah, it's just it's like a kind of sprinkly noise.
It's like Bewitched or something.
Yeah. Do you know, that's exactly what it's like. That's exactly.
That's what I like about your edits, though, because it takes that away and you're just left with a master sound, stereo sound as well, not mono like it would have been in the movie. It's nicer to listen to and it's nicer to look at as well. So,
absolutely.
Get looking down below, and Leon will chuck those links up for you.
Yeah, you can't forget the caption's right along the bottom of the screen there, so you can't exactly forget to
it's there for you to look at, yeah. And then we're going to the next song in the movie, which is the biggie.
Yeah.
A little less conversation.
Yeah. Now, who could have thought that 34 years later, it would become a massive worldwide hit?
And Mark Davis said, I told Elvis it was going to be a hit, but I didn't realize it was going to be 34 years later. But he said, I knew it was hit potential. Oh, Mark Davis must have been doing that in 2002.
Well, I mean, we were just glad that Elvis became contemporary again.
It was intended for the comeback special, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was. Yeah, it was. They'd recorded it for that, but see, the movie was supposed to be released just 4 weeks before the scheduled TV airing of what was called The Singer Presents Elvis. So it was Colonel Parker's brainwave. He thought including the song within a special would be good publicity for the movie. So Elvis recorded another vocal on the 24th of June, 1968, to the original backing from the 7th of March session for the movie. But the newer version transposed the key of the original recording from A major into E major.
Yeah, that's right.
And it featured a vocal on a heavy reverb with backup vocals from the Blossoms. So what that says to me is not using a completely new recording from scratch. That says to me, I don't think it was seriously considered for inclusion. And I think Steve Binder then, who directed the special, I think he decided the structure of the show would be altered to include live segments. Yeah. And I think A Less Conversation was probably the first casualty of that decision. I think it had it been included in the special, would that audio outtake then have been selected to front Nike's 2002 promotional drive?
Yeah, I suppose you've got a point there. And it's not the best take either, but it works for the remix. It seems to work. So
yeah, because I think the remix. Now, how do I put this without? The remix is less about Elvis and more about the music. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Elvis is the hook to it. And for Elvis's vocal works fantastically for what it's supposed to do in that. Yeah. But I think Elvis's vocal is so strange in it that you and I had this conversation yesterday.
Yeah.
Now I remember when I first saw it. I never. For those that don't know, the whole point it was for Nike to add to their ad campaign to tie in with FIFA's 2002 World Cup, which
That's
was
it. Yeah.
staged in Japan and South Korea. And what Nike did was they had the whole length video is called The Secret Tournament and included
right.
a lot of famous footballers who would be taking part in the World Cup and the team managed by Eric Cantona.
Yeah.
So when I first saw it, I thought I knew the song. I went, that's a lot less conversation. I went, and honestly I thought that's not Elvis. No, that's I actually seriously thought that was an impersonator. And then it was the following day, I was listening to a local radio station, and I heard it being played, and then I heard it was being titled with Elvis versus JXL, and I went, that is a remix.
Yeah.
And then after that, I found out that it had actually originally been used before that in Ocean's 11.
Yes, in 2001, something like that.
Yeah, but you only not as if Steven Soderbergh was trying to be a little bit cliche, but it plays just as they're coming into Vegas.
Of course it would. God,
but you only get a very, very small snippet of it.
Yeah,
you only get it 30 seconds or so of it, but that's not the remix. That's the actual take that that Elvis had recorded for inclusion in the special.
See, it's not. I've never been a fan of remixes of Elvis, especially, but that song really works in it. What a fantastic track, though.
But it has a hook in it. That I mean, you hear adverts on the radio or maybe on the telly, or when people on certain programs where they're doing bits between camera, and you hear that playing in the background, but you don't actually hear Elsie's vocal. It's just
the music,
the music, the hook, because I think the reason for that is it's a lot cheaper to use that than to actually use Elsie's vocal. I think a lot of that's involved in that. But the point is,
it's more likely.
Yeah, but the hook is, but because that music does have that hook, I think that's what it helps. But the electronic remix that Tom Hulkenberg did to it, Elvis, I think they've lowered Elvis's voice a wee bit. It seems to me, I think they've lowered it a wee bit.
They've lowered the pitch down. I think that's what they've did, because I know me and you would know Elvis's voice anywhere.
Yeah.
And then when you doubt it, I'm thinking, whoa, they've done something.
Yeah. And they also added emphasis to the 68 guitars. The horns, and they added that funk drum beat, and that's where the hook is. But
it's a drums. It's a that's
a testament to how good the song was, that it reached number one. It reached number one in over 20 countries.
And I don't know if you remember, but we in our local station, I think it was Radio 1 actually, they were actually pretending that they were interviewing Elvis and asked him how he felt about being number one again, and it was weird, but it worked. I was like, that's pretty cool. I think it was Chris Smiles or someone that was doing it. I'm thinking that's pretty cool.
Well, I can't remember who was doing the top 20 countdown on Radio 1 at that time, but what I do remember is they had Tom Hulkenberg come on, who is GXL, Junkie XL, whatever you want to call him, and he actually came on and spoke about it, and I have to say he was quite gushing about what he said about Elvis, I think, and about Elvis's vocal, I think kudos to him on that, because he could just have spoke about the work that he did on the song, but
he spoke about Elvis instead.
But he did. And I think he also said that when he was offered, he also said that he was extremely honoured that he was the first person that was given permission to do a remix of an Elvis track. And for anybody that doesn't know, Colonel Parker and Elvis sold the entire rights to Elvis's back catalogue back to RCA, which meant that Elvis had virtually no control over what happened to his back catalogue.
1973,
yeah. However, in the small print, any remixes or any changes to the actual songs was still had to be Elvis, and essentially his estate still had the final say on that. So it took special permission from the estate for that remix to take place. So it wasn't just as simple as Sony RCA turned around to Tom Hockenberg and said, right, on you go, remix this. A lot of to and fro and legal stuff had to go into it first. So,
and it worked in all their favours, to be fair.
Well,
it worked for everybody.
Well, as I say, it made Elvis become relevant again. He's now at the forefront of the public consciousness, and I think also he's never really gone away from that since.
No,
faded a wee bit, but Elvis has more credibility now than he ever had between him dying in 77 and the start of the 90s.
Yeah.
I think it's almost a case of now, if somebody turns around and says they're an Elvis fan, regardless of their age, I don't think nobody bats an eyelid about it now. You hear people, and social media has obviously got a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah.
But how many people young people, do you hear Elvis and start calling the greatest of all time and stuff like that? And that just wouldn't have happened in the 70s and in the 80s. And I've said it also in the 80s and the 90s. And I've had this call, I've said it before since we've been on, I've said it again, that it really was a difficult time to be a young Elvis fan.
Yeah, and I know that because I wasn't the most popular kid in the class because I was an Elvis fan. I'm thinking, but why? This guy's one of the greatest entertainers in the world, a legend, and you're mocking me for liking someone that's as great as Elvis was and is. Yeah. And, but I mean, I know I didn't become an Elvis fan through, my own right. I became an Elvis fan through proxy. Probably how you did that as well. So it was learned. It was a learned thing rather than me finding them on my own. It was basically spoon fed with a shovel. If you will listen to this because it's only the stuff I listen to. But I'm glad he did it. My dad did it, but I was very one-track minded for years because he was the only person I would listen to. Honestly, I didn't like anyone else until I started to listen to other music and appreciate other music for what it is. And although the catalogue that Elvis has got, it's crazy, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you do need a break from it to appreciate it. But like you say, Leon, in the 90s, or you're a bit older than me, late 80s, it was difficult to be a fan because of the fact that it wasn't very popular to be an Elvis fan back then.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, but that 2002, I think it just changed. It seemed to change everything, and of course, you then had the Follow That Dream stuff came out, so the fans themselves got more stuff. I know the Follow That Dream stuff started just prior to this coming out. And of course, 2001, we had That's the Way It Is been re-released as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think it all seemed to be good at that point. I still think that Sony could have capitalized a little bit better than they have. I still think in some ways they've been asleep at the wheel. I still think.
But hasn't Sony always been like that? Not even just with Elvis, with most of their artists.
Yeah,
they're not the greatest. I think I might get me wrong, but I think Robbie Williams was with Sony and he left them because of that reasons, because they weren't very good at marketing.
Yeah,
they paid well, but they didn't market well.
See, I think what got me with Elvis was that what they did, what the success of A Little Less Conversation did. First of all, you then had the Paul Oakenfold remix of Rubbernecking, where they tried to capitalize. I can kind of understand why they did a remix. I mean, I know it's not a favourite of mine. I like Rubbernecking, but you and I both like anything from Memphis 6ix9ine. Let's be honest. But
I think,
and I can understand why they chose the song. but I think the way he remixed it just wasn't. But it got to number 3, so it didn't do too badly. But then
I think it was Rachel Stevens, My LAX beat him. She got to number 2, I think. Not a bad song actually.
No,
but
no.
yeah, it beat Elvis to. I don't think she was number. Was she number 1? I can't remember, but she beat him. I know
I can remember the disappointment when I was listening to Radio 1 on the Sunday, and because obviously they do the countdown, and when it got to number 3 and Elvis came on, I went, oh. But I think we've been spoiled by a little less conversation. But then what Sony now I've just accused Sony of being asleep at the wheel. But so I'm going to kind of be a little bit hypocritical of what I'm going to say now. If you remember, what they decided to do was re-release all of the number 1 hits again on consecutive weeks.
Yeah,
and I think
that was pretty cool. Yeah, and I remember that very, very well.
Well, it was at first, but then I think what happened, it became, because Elvis had 18 of them. I think what happened was after the first 4 or 5, the sales just plummeted. If you remember, and this is something that I remember being said on radio, that one of those number 1s that Elvis got is actually the least selling number 1 of all time.
Ooh.
The reissue.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh, that's not really good. So what personally, and this is just a personal opinion, what I think they should have done was they should have dipped into the back catalogue, found a real hidden gem, and went full throttle on it.
Really marketed it well, yeah.
Yeah, no remix.
Campaigned it a bit better.
Well, yeah, John, but you and I had this conversation yesterday. I pulled out just a handful of CD singles that I had, right, that were lying about. You had that one from Always on My Mind, the orchestral version, where the British Telecom had used it in an ad campaign, and Sony were quick enough to get that out. But the only marketing they did was a few adverts. There was nothing on top of that.
No.
But again, it's a song that's already known to the public,
which is going to be half-arsed sold, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So just think of the stuff that we've spoke about. The really Suspicious Minds, the live version, after That's the Way It Is came out.
I had it on CD-ROM version.
Did you really?
Yeah, you had the single. You had the single, and the B-side was like you put it into your PC and you watched the performance from the 2001 That's the Way It Is. In fact, you might have that on your disc.
On the Suspicious Minds one?
Mm-hmm.
No, not on that one. I don't do. I think it's. I think it's just. I think it's just the 3 tracks. I think it's just the Suspicious Minds live, the original version of Suspicious Minds, and the Wonder of You live from the 13th of August dinner show. I think that's all that's on that one.
I don't know where I got mine from actually, but yeah, that was what was on it, and it's very pixelated because obviously it was 2001. It was old school, but they did that quite a lot with the singles back in them days. They would have like a CD-ROM version where you got to see the video of it. Yeah.
But I think the whole point, John, is that I think they could have delved into the back catalogue and pulled out something that. I mean, there's so many hidden gems within that back catalogue that we spoke about ad nauseam.
Well, I did it with like a little less conversation, and let's face it, it's a song I never even listened to prior to the remix. So,
but the point is that's a remix.
You're looking for our original release.
Yes, but capitalise on the success of A Little Less Conversation, and to a lesser extent Rubbernecking, and then find a studio, even if it had been an undubbed master, which now we can appreciate the merit in that.
Yeah,
but I mean, how? Just think, for example, if take one of Bridge Over Troubled Water, if they had just released that and went full throttle with it, I think that really, because it's not. It was 100 Years From Now had not long come out. Remember?
True, 96.
Yeah. So only 5 or 6 years, so they could have pulled that from that and put that as a single. Oh, it's 5, 6 years later, but that's what I think they could have done. But isn't hindsight? We'd have been great as Sony marketing strategists, would we not?
Well, we'd be happy to have Elvis at #1 every week.
You'd think so, listening to us, wouldn't
you? You think so, yeah. But
I bet Ernst Jorgensen's quaking in his boots, eh?
Couldn't do any worse than what he can do sometimes.
Yeah,
anyway, wasn't the last song in the movie?
Yeah.
Almost in Love.
Yeah. Now, fabulous vocal.
Yes, I'll give him these due. In fact, it's a good, nice song. It's a nice ballad, actually.
Yeah, see, Billy Strange had taken. I give Billy. I know I've mentioned, but I think I give Billy Strange an awful lot of credit as far as this recording session is concerned.
Yeah,
because he's taken Elvis in the music in a completely different direction than the stale, banal compositions that he'd had for the last couple of years.
Yeah,
but it's the only song in the movie that could maybe describe even resembling a ballad. Although it's very of its time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've heard some Elvis fans describe it as elevator music.
That's actually not a bad point, to be fair.
Yeah, no, and I through gritted teeth, I kind of get that. But I think his vocal is the most important thing about that, because I think his vocal's
always is though, Leon, because he's the artist, isn't he? And
yeah.
But you know, it's a change of direction again, though, because it's not the same box standard ballad he usually sings, and it's cocktail loungy music-y.
Yeah, that's exactly what you've taken over right out of my mouth. Cocktail jazz, I would call it. But you see, if you take away Elvis's vocal and you just play somebody the intro to Almost in Love, they're immediately going to know that it's that kind of late 60s, early 70s. If you watch maybe an early episode of Columbo,
it's got that vibe, isn't it?
Yeah, it does. That's what you'll get. I really
see what people don't understand is that is when Elvis isn't now. He was then. He made music for that time, so the people need to remember that and just accept it for what it is back then, not what we're trying to say now.
Yeah.
But appreciate it for the 60s track that it is.
But what I also like about it, and this kind of shows also the difference in how, I don't know if Elvis was suddenly taking the recording sessions a bit more serious than he had been for the last few.
I think you've hit I think 67.
Yeah.
Well, the later part of 67 did that to him. Like the You Never Walk Alone sessions, the Guitar Man sessions he's starting to enjoy the sessions a bit better now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely, because I think he'd always been presented with material that he liked, that he kind of liked as well. But
yeah,
the reason I mention that is that it went through a kind of strange recording process, because he trialed the record in 3 different keys.
I know, yeah. Noticed that on the FTD release,
and then so that was on the 7th of March. It went back to the studio on the 11th of March, and to re-record his vocal, and it was take 3 of the low-key version that was chosen.
Yeah.
And then, but the one on the Camden album, I think, did you mention this before, that it had the intro edited? The intro's been edited on it.
Yes, it has been. Yeah, on this one. Yeah.
The intro's been edited on it. That might be just to fit it onto an LP. That might be something to do with something.
RCA again. The whole review in itself.
Oh, isn't it just? We could go on all day about RCA themselves. But of course, after that, it was onwards and upwards and into the 68 special, wasn't it?
That's it. And hopefully maybe review that at some point.
Yeah.
But yes, that kind of brings it to a close for this album and its soundtrack.
Yeah.
And
I think what we should do, before we say anything else, I think we should thank everybody that's made suggestions about what we should do next.
Yeah, totally. And take them on board as well, and maybe do one. So
yeah, well, what we're
not in
vain
for them to say it. So
yeah, what we're going to do next is the 19th of August 1974 opening show.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, what we'll do with that is, I think we'll do is the same as we did with the 26th of January 1972 one. We'll talk a bit about the show itself, and then we'll concentrate on the new additions that Elvis had put on that one.
Yeah.
And I think we should say, of course, that it was Aaron Coleman who suggested that on the comments underneath the 26th of
and thank
January
you so much for your kind comments. You know, really do appreciate that, and for you following us and subscribing to the channel. You know, we're not ignoring you. It just takes a lot of time and effort to get these done, because we've both got different lives, and you know, we're both busy in jobs and etc. But we do take suggestions on board. Might not do them the week after that, but we will get to it eventually. And as Leon says, we are getting down to it now. Because we need to get our own stuff out of the way as well, that we like to do. But it's not all about us, it's about you guys, and you guys as the subscribers as well. So and listen, folks, I know we keep badgering on, but it's the only way it helps the channel grow. Hit like, subscribe, and share. Like I say, it helps us grow as a channel, and it helps us to remain to do this. And it's never a chore to us, but like I say, it just helps the channel grow. And
we love it, don't we?
We love it. It's what and you could tell it's what we like doing. And as Leon says, you know, the links are all there for all the stuff that Leon's already put up on his channel. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and Leon's channel. We've both got a different vibe of our own channels, but that's what we're there for. And then we've got our own one that we, you know, do together on this one. So next week, Leon, that's the 1974 August 19th show, isn't it, from Vegas?
Yeah, that I think it's a start of a very controversial season. It started with something different, and definitely it's definitely ended with something very, very different.
Yes, but we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that till next week.
Yeah, I think we will. So yeah, it's been another good one. I like talking about the soundtracks. I enjoy the soundtracks. It's also nice to talk about. We could go on and talk about GI Blues and Blue Hawaii, and we could Kid Galahad and Fun in Acapulco, the one that everybody knows. But it's nice to actually talk about one that's a bit more obscure, because as much as we mentioned at the start, as much as the movie's probably not the best, the music certainly is. And
that's what it's good, because it lets the listener, well, as a viewer, go and listen to these songs and visit the movie that might have not seen before. They might enjoy it and think, well, I've really enjoyed it because of us. So I'm quite happy about that. So if it's introducing that movie to a new fan or whatever, I quite like that. So
yeah.
So it's going to be the awkward thing now to how do we end this, because it's different when it's, you know, audio. But I'd like to say thanks. See everybody next week, and from myself and Leon, we'll see you next week. Take it easy. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.